In this section, we're going to talk about why risk failures are usually human related, not technical related. Plenty of companies don't lack risk registers or heat maps or response plans. They have all of this stuff. I've got a ton of them. What they lack is an honest understanding of how those tools get interpreted because of those biases. And because of those biases, we filter them differently, we ignore them, and we let all of that stuff come into our psyche into play when real decisions are on the table and they need to be made. Risk rarely collapses because of a spreadsheet. It happens in a room where decisions need to be made. So this section is all about the decision quality problem. It's not a tool problem, it's a people problem. And if you understand people and how they behave under uncertainty, the issues and failures you've seen before are going to start to make sense. And that sense is going to make you uncomfortable. So here we go. I am super stoked about this one because this one is more people related, and I'm a people person. I like people. So, right out of the gate, risk artifacts do not prevent poor decisions. We could have 10 years of historical data that shows that every time we've done this kind of project or using this vendor or starting at this time, or when the barometric pressure looks like this because of hurricane season, it's failed or we've had trouble. And the issue is we have this cognitive bias. We have this optimism bias. It says this time is going to be different. Even when the information, the data, the hard numbers and facts tell you otherwise, you still will make a decision contrary to it. And I've seen it happen many, many times. Think about a friend who's been in a bad relationship and they keep going back to that person over and over. It's like, look, all the data is there. This guy is a chucklehead. Move on. But they keep going back. And that'll bring us to the sunk cost fallacy soon enough. But if you have a certain amount of documentation or really good data, you may swing the other way. Documentation can create false confidence. You might think, well, the numbers are black and white right here. This tells me that it's going to be X, Y, and Z this time. And that's also a confirmation bias. You may have cherry-picked that information to support your belief. Who knows? But just because you have good documentation doesn't mean that Murphy's Law is not going to step in and blow it all apart, because that happens all the time. And Murphy's Law, in case you forgot, is if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. Let's keep going. Visibility, meaning you can see it coming, doesn't guarantee action. And if it does, it doesn't guarantee the appropriate action. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen warning signs in technical data, and I bring it up and I bring it up, and you can see it trending. That's the easiest way to think of it. You can see bad stuff trending, and they still let their bias get in the way and think, all right, I can see it, I've got it under control. No, you can see it, but you don't have it under control, because if you had it under control, you would see it trending in the opposite direction. And man, you can see this in all kinds of stuff. Look at the rail system project out in California where they've sunk about $10 billion into it, or at least assigned that much money to it. They've spent billions already and haven't laid a single track. I'm not making this up. I'm not picking on California. This isn't a political thing. They can see, they have visibility that they have problems, but that doesn't mean they're going to take a different action. And so the last I heard, that rail project, the high-speed rail project out there is on hold. Finally, someone took a different action. And again, I'm not trying to be political. I'm just trying to give you real-world, present state examples. Then you have incentives. Incentives influence how risk is reported. If you get the thumb on your head every time you raise an issue, you're going to stop doing it because there's no incentive to get beat up and punched around by the boss's authority whenever you raise these concerns. You're just going to go silent and probably start looking for an escape plan. Here's the opposite side though. Let's say there's a $5 incentive. Every time you bring us an issue, we're going to give you $5, but you're going to have to wait 30 days. You're going to have 2 pieces of ID, and you're going to have to show 3 pieces of evidence to support it. And you're thinking, really? I'm not doing all that for $5. But what about when the incentive changes? Maybe it's 50 bucks, 500 bucks, 50,000 bucks. Think about all those times you saw wanted posters out there and they were offering $1, $2, $5, $10 million. Those people got turned in by people who saw that incentive and took a risk to report it. And that might be a hinky example, but I think you get the message. And then experience does not eliminate your bias. In fact, I think it amplifies it. The longer you go without seeing something fail, or the longer you go without seeing something succeed, you anchor that cognitive bias firmly into your amygdala, into your brain, or wherever it's swirling around up there, and you simply won't change. You won't do it. So experience can work against you and for you. And then you have governance. If it's very light, it can unintentionally suppress risk because it doesn't have a supporting mechanism to report it. But if governance is overly heavy, it's going to suppress it because people don't want to go through the process to elevate it. And then if they elevate it, they run into the authority bias of their boss who's overly optimistic. That goes back to the optimism bias. I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable there, so I had to circle back. Process compliance is not the same as risk awareness. You may think you are doing everything exactly right, and because you're doing everything exactly right, you think everything is going to be exactly okay. But you're just going through the motions. That doesn't mean everything is going to be okay. You can see you're following the steps, and because you followed the steps, you've gotten into a false sense of security and you've put blinders on. All you can see is the process you're trying to follow. And as soon as you remove those blinders, you can begin to see those outliers that fall outside the process. That's also dangerous. And the last one, as a risk manager, you need to account for these behaviors. You need to be the 11th man. You need to be the devil's advocate in these conversations. You need to elevate these concerns if they exist and clearly explain what is happening. We're going to talk about all of this in greater detail coming up. You can tell I'm super excited, and I hope you are too, so hang on.